On the 7th of February, our church celebrates the feast day of St. Luke of Stirus. The following are some details on his life and works. Born at the turn of the 9th century on the island of Aegina, Luke was raised in an environment of Christian love, which he felt with such intensity that he turned his life over to the Saviour when he was but a youth. The technological distractions of modern times were lacking in the days when Luke lived, allowing ample time for concentration on the church, or on the other hand, allowing the less devoted to live meaningless lives in shallow pursuits. It is to the everlasting credit of Luke that he chose to study theology and the liberal arts, devoting his unoccupied time to a regimen of prayer and meditation. While still very young, he clearly demonstrated that the hand of God was upon him, particularly since he was able to go into prolonged fasting periods, denying himself the essentials of nourishment without suffering any noticeable debilitation. To all intent and purpose, he was a virtual monk long before he was to retire to a cloister to formally become one. While others in his age group were playing their games, he chose to play at being a monk. Only with him it was no game, but an earnest apprenticeship for what was to come. In addition to his study of the classics and theology, the young Luke familiarized himself with the services of the church, and he was as proficient in conducting a service as an ordained priest. He amazed all about him with his mastery of the Scriptures, and possessed a store of knowledge of the sacred music, which was the envy of the most accomplished chanter. Luke was anything but a green youth, but more like a seasoned campaigner for Christ, when he opted for the little-known monastery at Stirus rather than the exalted cloister of Mount Athos. From the moment he stepped into the confines of that monastery, he immersed himself to a depth of prayer and meditation that soon marked him as a man who enjoyed a proximity to God. Pilgrims who had been seeking spiritual guidance at the monastery were soon diverted to the newest member of the cloister, in whom they found a sublime serenity and astounding wisdom, going away much more spiritually enriched than when they had entered. As the years went by, Luke's fame grew. The hierarchy sought to enlist his services formally into the church, where he might preach and rise to a post of prominence. Luke politely refused to give up completely the life he had chosen for himself, but he made concessions along the way. He went forth from the monastery to be heard by multitudes wherever they might gather, but next to his isolation, he preferred to spend an evening with the family, engaging in quiet prayer and discussing the truth of the word of Jesus Christ. He is not known to have wandered too far from his beloved Stirus, but his fame spread throughout Greece to such an extent that visitors were constantly pouring into the village, leaving him little time for prayer. St. Luke of the Bible was known as the glorious physician, and by divine coincidence, St. Luke of Stirus, without benefit of vaccines or medications, was able to heal the afflicted by divine intervention. He acquired this power of the Lord unwittingly, unaware himself until the sick and afflicted, who were seeking only solace, were suddenly finding themselves cured of maladies. It was this one awesome power that made the monastery of Stirus a magnet for persons who travelled for miles around. Unsolicited donations were given to the monastery by grateful pilgrims, particularly by those who had received cures. The money was given to the poor, thus giving the holy work of Luke added meaning. Luke died at a young age on the 7th of February in the year 846 AD.